The lack of respect for not only Black, but queer and disabled women in the comic book industry is palpable, and no one has felt it more than critically acclaimed writer T. Franklin. T has been a voice and an advocate online for herself and other disabled people, Black, queer, or otherwise, for years, despite the industry treating her like an outlier. T is a prolific comic creator. She grew up creative and with a passion for storytelling. T. Franklin, a lifelong lover of horror and comic culture, had observed the detrimental impact of misguided tropes and slurs on marginalized communities. So, for decades, the lack of diversity in entertainment spaces has perpetuated harmful stereotypes. Being the first Black writer for Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, and raising almost 60K for her own independent projects, not in that order, prove how talented she is. Introduced to comics at a young age by her cousin and babysitter, T used them as an outlet for her creativity and mental health. Even now, she's dealing with coming to terms with the abuse she faced growing up and showing her fans her healing journey through her social media accounts. Franti underscores the significance of therapy and support systems in the recovery process. Her work frequently dives into the impact of abuse on mental health and self-identity. She actively encourages survivors to voice their experiences and seek assistance, thereby fostering a sense of community. Additionally, her advocacy encompasses the promotion of resources for individuals who have endured similar experiences to her own. She is also the survivor of a car accident that left her permanently disabled and having to use mobility aids. As already mentioned, T was introduced to comics as a child and dealt with a lot of abuse and trauma. She dealt with even more abuse from her ex-husband, who she finally divorced in 2011 before returning to her love of comics. That was when she realized that she wanted to work in the comic industry in some kind of way. So she started off her career in comics doing reviews and interviews and being in places where at the time you would not see a Black woman at all. But unknown to her, this was the beginning of a beautiful career. Once she realized there were so few Black comics, she decided if there weren't at least two prominent BIPOC, at least, characters, she would not cover the book. And while interviewing the creator of Nailbiter, Joshua Williamson, at NYCC, he gave her 4 pages of space to get her first comic writing credits. She went from not believing she could write to the next thing she knew, having several creator-owned amazing credits. She created the Diversity in Comics panel and the hashtag Blacks Comics Month that was celebrated every February by DC and Image. On top of that, she created her own publishing company for a while called Inclusive Press to be a platform for herself and other authors who are commonly overlooked due to social and racial inequalities. Then came the tear down. She was outed by several up-and-coming creators, some of whom she put on the map through her blog and her media. And how was she outed? T. Franklin was a sex worker, and at the time that was a very looked down upon profession. But she did not let that stop her. One of T's most prominent comics is Bingo Love. When Hazel Johnson and Marie McRae meet at church bingo in 1963, it's love at first sight. Bingo Love, a story about Hazel Johnson and Marie McRae, was first published as part of a highly successful Kickstarter campaign that then released on Valentine's Day by Image Comics later on. T worked tirelessly to bring Bingo Love to publication, carving a niche for herself as a queer disabled Black woman in an industry predominantly dominated by straight, white, able-bodied men. And one of Franklin's biggest supporters was Gail Simone. T was also driven by a desire for more queer representation. Despite her occasional self-doubt, she persevered and succeeded. She saw Bingo Love through to completion and it became a hit. T wanted to create a story that resonated with young readers who were like her, who grew up in libraries, finding themselves reflected in the characters. Her inspiration for the story came from a commercial featuring 2 Black elderly women walking up the steps, and she said that would make a good love story. And despite skepticism and its potential sales, she raised over double her initial goal in 5 days. Another popular creator-owned title from T was Juke Joint. The juke joint keeps the jazz popping, people hopping, and the women are to die for. Horror was the natural progression for T. Franklin, having grown up on horror writers like Stephen King and Takashi Miike, before moving on to horror comics like Nailbiter, and also writing a short inside of Nailbiter, number 27, called Skin. So, Juke Joint was born. Juke Joint was a safe place, a utopia inside T's mind and for the patrons of the Juke Joint itself. There are common sense rules in place of the Juke Joint. These are things that should be taught to each of us as a child, namely consent. And there are punishments for breaking the rules. Horrible punishments. Juke Joint was an answer to a mental breakdown that she experienced, and she began writing the book as an answer and almost therapy after that break. I could say more, but I'll save it for a review later on, which you can find at themelaninminds.carrd.co. Next up, Harley Quinn. T is the first Black woman to write the DC Comics well-known characters Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, starting with Harley Quinn Eat, Bang, Kill Tour, and moving on to several other Harley Quinn titles, where she even gave Vixen her own storyline for a moment. She sees Harley as an ADHD anti-hero and a symbol for domestic abuse survivors, considering her former relationship with the Joker, which she is. Eat, Bang, Kill Tour was also based on the Harley Quinn HBO series, while the series was on hiatus. At its core, it's a comic about a queer romance between Harley and Ivy, but also the trauma Ivy and Harley lived through and how they can turn to help each other. T stuck in a bunch of Easter eggs from the animated show, as well as some nods to Birds of Prey. The series was called Eat, Bang, Kill for a reason, and T wanted to put in plenty of all three. There were also other things from the animated series that T wanted to touch on in the comic: Harley and Ivy's parents, Ivy left at the altar, and plenty more. She also made sure to keep the representation of Catwoman for us. T has also written for DC's Superboy, and T. Franklin is also the creator of Sunspider and is credited as the writer of Edge of Spider-Verse #4 at Marvel Comics, which was published in September of 2022. Edge of Spider-Verse #4 features Charlotte Weber, aka Sunspider. She is a disabled spider with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome who uses crutches and a wheelchair as mobility aids. Sunspider was also briefly in the 2023 Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, where she's voiced by Danielle Perez. In 2023, T. Franklin co-created Violet Rainbow, a disabled pony with vitiligo and anxiety, for My Little Pony, in addition to her best friend Sky and Sky's mother, Mariama, a pair of zebras. T was nominated for and received a $50,000 grant for the work she's done with disabilities from Ford and Mellon Foundation Disability Futures Fellows. In 2017, she got the Prism Queer Press grant. And then Bingo Love was nominated for a GLAAD Award for Best Comic in 2019, in addition to being a Goodreads Choice nominee. Bingo Love dominated the Best of 2018 list and won the Virginia Library Diversity Award for Best Graphic Novel in August of 2019. Franklin was named one of 2018's Icons, Innovators, and Disruptors by Advocate Magazine. Harley Quinn Eat, Bang, Kill Tour was GLAAD nominated and a best-selling book, despite what naysayers tried to say. And that's a little bit about T. Franklin, an amazing writer in the space who's made history and deserves support and admiration. If you have anything you'd like to add, please comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, because I'll be doing more of these videos, and I interview Black women on my podcast, Melanin Minds, that posts every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to like this video so it can be seen by the algorithm. And if you would like to, you can follow Melanin Minds at Melanin Minds 24 on Instagram. Subscribe to us here. And also, if you're looking for any comic books that I may have written, you can find those at Midnight X Comics on all social media except for YouTube and Facebook, where it's just Midnight Comics, or you can also find them at midnightcomics.org. And that's it. So until next time, remember, as I always say, a small flame can become a huge blaze. And I'll see you guys in the next video. This got crooked.